Welcome back to our Football Manager 2024 save with Ipswich on the 24-25 season update, which places Ipswich in the Premier League, their first visit to the top flight of English football in 2 decades. And we have played the first 4 games, the first 2 which you saw on camera last time out, and the second 2 after that. And the camera in the bottom left isn't revealing anything. Well, I can reveal that we are exactly in the same place as we were before. We haven't won a single game. We're not rock bottom of the table. We are in the relegation zone, just above Bournemouth and Everton. Everton having that 6-point deduction at the start of the season. They've won 1 game and drawn 1, so it would have been 19th. Bournemouth have had an absolute shocker, so not a good start to Andoni Iraola's second season in charge. Took a 5-0 battering against Fulham the first day of the season. We commented on that. But they lost against Tottenham, they lost against Brighton, and today's opponents, Nottingham Forest as well, have beaten Bournemouth. So that's a bit of a worrying sign for us. But in terms of our football, we've played 3 games since you guys last saw me. We played against Tottenham away from home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and this game has led to a change in tactic because I just felt that we sat inside our own box, camped inside our own box, almost waiting for Tottenham to score against us. Heung-min Son scored an early goal and Ben Davies made it 2 before half-time. We were pretty much out of it. I'm going to talk about the Carabao Cup in a second. Against Brighton, we tried a bit of a different tactic. We went for a fluid counter-attack rather than a direct counter-attack, and it seemed to work for us. None of our individual players had a fantastic day, but you can see our XG was actually higher than Brighton's. We had 12 shots, albeit only 2 of those on target, but we were more in the game. Okay, we didn't have a lot of possession, but our pass completion stats were a lot better, so I'm hoping it's a step in the right direction for us. And one of the main reasons why I changed the tactic was looking at this graphic here in the data hub. It almost tells me this, that we're cramped inside our own box defending too much. And if we're going to get anything out of opponents this year, we need to come out and fight. And that's what we did against Brighton. And to be honest, we were very close to nicking a point at Portman Road. We did get our first win of the campaign against Brighton in the second round of the League Cup at the Valley. Charlton gave as good as they got, and it is difficult to gauge whether this is a particularly good result because Charlton are in League 1, so they're 2 divisions below us, but nevertheless a confidence builder for Ipswich, who in real life didn't do the same. They lost to AFC Wimbledon in the week, so that wasn't great for them in real life, but we had more possession. We changed, I think we made 6 changes in the game just to rest some of our mainstay players, and 2 players that were given a chance, Marcus Harness and George Hurst, did very well. George Hurst is going to start today's game against Forest because of that performance, but a very solid performance from Ben Johnson as well. A bit concerned about conceding 2 goals. We were 3-2 up at half time, but we kept the ball out of our net for the second half, scored 1 to make it 4-2, and it was relatively comfortable in the end. But in today's episode, we're going to be playing at the City Ground against Notts Forest, and then at home back at Portman Road for another televised game against Brentford next Saturday. So the team for today's game against Notts Forest is going to be Muric in goal, the same back 4 as you would normally expect, Morsey in defensive midfield, Calvin Phillips and Luongo in midfield. We've just had an international break, and unfortunately Sammy Schmodix has come back with a twisted ankle. He was out for potentially 6 weeks. That was last week, and it looks like that's come down a little bit, so that's fortunate. But Sammy Schmodix, the real workhorse of the team, makes a lot happen for us. So that's disappointment that he's gone out. So Luongo's going to have to play in his normal role, albeit as a supporting central midfielder. But Calvin Phillips is going to step in as a box-to-box midfielder who's got a lot of good stamina. So a similar kind of player to Sammy Schmodix. By the way, I didn't realise that Calvin Phillips was 27 in game. Nearly 28, and I guess he's nearly 29 in real life. For some reason I thought he was a much younger player, so he has got a problem in terms of his playing future. Obviously he's gone to Ipswich on loan. Whether that becomes something long term for him, I'm not sure. His position on the bench, Sammy Schmodix, has been taken by Cameron Humphreys. We've got a fair amount of decent young players. We've got 2 or 3 players in the under-21s who are nearly ready for that transition to the first team, and I think we might need them this season. So Cameron Humphreys is going to get a space on the bench and might potentially get into the first team if we have any other problems with players. Amari Hutchinson and Nathan Broadhead are on the wings, the 2 expected players. Amari Hutchinson obviously got a red card in the first game of the season. He came straight back in against Brighton. Didn't have the best day actually against Brighton, but we are going to persist with Amari Hutchinson in this game against Forest. Broadhead on the wing, and then George Hurst up front. Scored twice against Charlton, had a decent game against Brighton, but I'm going to try and use Connor Chaplin more as an impact player. We're also going to go for a balanced mentality. That seems to be the way we did it against Brighton, and it worked quite well for us. Try and gauge how we get into the game again. Not sit back forcefully, but if Forest have a lot of the ball, we will go to a counter-attacking style of football. Forest have started well, and even in the games they've drawn, I think even against Villa they had a lot more shots than Villa. So that is a concern. I'm going to say to them, I'm going to pump fists, and unfortunately there's not really a kind of, come on lads, we can do it, but the underdog, I guess we'll go for the underdog thing, even though I don't want to press too hard on the fact that we're underdogs, because if we keep going like that, we might as well say we're ready for relegation, bring it on. So the aim from the first 10 games was to get 10 points. Now we've got to get 10 points out of 6 games, and at least a point away at the City Ground. Again, a ground that looks nothing like the City Ground in game. But if we can get a point at least against Notts Forest, that will start our season off and finally start us moving the right way, I hope, up the Premier League table. The match momentum screen is something I always use in this game. It's always nice to gauge where we are. And we've had a horrible start here. We've only had 20% possession. Muric has potentially got a fractured finger, so that's not the best way for us to start. Forest are really controlling proceedings here. We've had even less possession than we probably had against Manchester City. Positive being is that we've passed the ball a lot better. We're not chucking the ball away, and that was the thing with the direct counter-attack. Distributing quickly as you would expect, but more direct passing, and this has got an emphasis on shorter passing, and I think that's going to help us in terms of keeping the ball, not putting as much pressure on the defenders. I mean, I've said keeping the ball, we've only had 27% of it, but at least we're passing a lot better. The impact on the defence and the pressure on the defence is not going to be as much at all, but we're not in this game against Forest at all at the moment. We've just registered our first shot, albeit not on target. But Forest haven't peppered our goal and done anything particularly impactful so far. I mean, they've had 7 shots, none of them troubling the goalkeeper. It would indicate from this first highlight that Forest might well do that here. Murillo puts it in for Taiwo Awoniyi, and it is the first goal of the game for the centre-forward formerly of Liverpool. Had a disastrous night the other night against Newcastle. Wasn't really in the game, to be honest, in real life. Brighton have just took the lead at the Amex against Manchester City. City lost against Fulham. Fulham are sitting at the top of the Premier League table at the moment, which is a shock to say the least. Muric well beaten there. We have had 1 shot, and that was on target. We've had 2 shots, and one of those has been on target. So not the best start for us here at the City Ground. I was hoping we'd be in the game a little bit more. It's going to be difficult this season. Forest, a team that I thought we'd be challenging. Awoniyi's offside in that attack there. I thought we'd be challenging Forest and they'd be down there, but Forest have made a good start. Did have a 4 points deduction, of course, at the start of the season from last year, so they've got 5 points, but they're just a point above us so far. Yeah, it's not been great for us so far. Again, we've not had a lot of possession at all, albeit Forest have been dominant but haven't really troubled the goal all that much. I'm going to say to the lads, show me something else in the second half. We start... I did say early on, particularly against the bigger sides, that we were going to be a bit calmer. We weren't going to crack the whip too much. But we can't pussyfoot around any longer. We have got to say to the players against teams like Forest that are really in our sort of realm. Teams that we should be looking to get a result against. Maybe not a win here at the City Ground, but this was a game that we earmarked for a potential performance. And we've not had any attacking opportunities yet. So we've hit the hour mark here at the City Ground. I think it might be time to make some changes. Or I thought Awoniyi had scored that there. Villa are leading 2-0 at Old Trafford. That's what I like to see as a Liverpool fan. I'm going to give Cameron Humphreys a game. He looks motivated. He is more of an attacking midfielder, so it makes perfect sense to play him in that role. We're going to make a couple of changes. We're going to bring Connor Chaplin on for George Hurst, and we're going to bring Marcus Harness. In fact, we're going to bring Wes Burns on. No, we'll bring Harness on because he's more match fit for Amari Hutchinson, who has had a bit of a poor day again. So hopefully those 3 substitutions will bring us a bit more in attack. But it's been a fairly drab game, to be blunt. We have had a couple of opportunities where we've had a decent amount of the ball. We're going to go to a positive mentality. We've kept Forest out for the 1, so I don't mind that so much. I know only losing 1-0 sounds a bit ridiculous, but the fact that we've only conceded 1 I will take that from a goal difference perspective at the end of the season. But is that going to be Marcus Harness's first goal of the season? It certainly is. That is a cracker of a cross there from deep from Calvin Phillips over on the left-hand side. So a throw-in from Leif Davis goes to Calvin Phillips, back to Davis, then to Morsey. Phillips with his first touch puts it into Harness, and a player that I had no idea was any good in the air. Marcus Harness has put us back into this game at Forest, which really we have no business to be in. And we have potentially managed to grab our first point of the season here at the City Ground. Now, we could go for this and really attack, but I want to be careful that we don't concede again. Sam Morsey's tired, so we're going to bring Jack Taylor on for him. Cameron Humphreys can also play as a defensive midfielder, but isn't really looking that great, so we'll bring Taylor on in that position. Clark also looks tired, so we're going to bring Ben Johnson on for him, and hopefully we can stay in this game against Forest now. I'm going to be a bit more disciplined, try and waste some time, slow the pace down, and adopt a low block. And fingers crossed we can get our first point of the Premier League season. A game that we've had to scrap for, but Forest, to be honest, haven't really taken their chances. Albeit the goalkeeper has been, apart from Harness, the goal scorer, our best player today, and Calvin Phillips, who got the assist. Alright, apart from the two players that have been involved in the goal, Muric did a good job for us today. 7 shots on target, and Muric succeeded in keeping all of those out bar 1. I think Taiwo one year be a bit upset the fact that he had quite a lot of chances and didn't take them. But we have got our first point of the Premier League season. And you know what? I'm going to say to the lads, that is an excellent job to come back and get a draw. Under a lot of pressure, outpossessed. And again, they always say the XG doesn't lie. But at the end of the day, the XG doesn't matter. There's one stat that matters. And that is that we got a point out of this game against Forest. So we're underway in the Premier League, and hopefully returning back to Portman Road with a positive result against Forest, we can go and convert 1 into 3. We're being kept off the foot of the table by a Bournemouth side who have had an absolutely disastrous start, losing 6 straight against West Ham. Jarrod Bowen scoring in the first minute for the Hammers. It's not been a good start at all, and to be fair, looking at those 3 teams, Forest, Brentford and West Ham, you would expect Bournemouth to get something out of those teams. But that 5-0 drubbing from Fulham on the opening day, I don't think they've really recovered from that. Everton won last weekend to move them off the foot of the table. So we are in the relegation zone, but still ahead of Bournemouth. And we'll be at least 19th at the end of today's game. We've got a game in hand on Bournemouth. But another team starting with B in this Premier League are in brilliant form. Brentford could be joint top of the table with Manchester City if they go and beat us today. They've had a very good start, beating Bournemouth, Wolves, Leicester, drawing against Newcastle as well. They lost by 1-0 against Aston Villa at Villa Park, which is nothing that's really to be ashamed of. But they did go and beat Bournemouth in the previous game. So we have got our work cut out against a team that I thought we might have got 3 points against. But we didn't play badly against Forest. So let's see how we get on here. We've made a couple of changes for this game. Ben Johnson comes in at right back. Harry Clark was at right back, but he has come in to replace Christian Burgess, who's got a fractured lower leg. He's out for a couple of months. They are dropping like flies in this Ipswich squad. But Harry Clark is a natural centre-back and works really hard for the team. So we've put him in there. Ben Johnson at right back seems the best quality output there. A couple of changes up front. We've gone for Marcus Harness on the right, scored for us in the previous game. So we're going to reward him with a start based on that. But equally, Amari Hutchinson did get a light knock, a pulled groin in training. I was going to replace Hutchinson anyway because I haven't been that impressed with him. And Nathan Broadhead is quite tired. He's got a heavy injury risk. So Connor Chaplin, we're going to play him out on the left, see how he gets on out there. We have got Liam Delap as a striker option on the bench as well. But we didn't play badly against Forest. Okay, Forest were by far the better team in terms of possession stats. We have been working on possession in training this week, so hopefully we can improve against Brentford. Brentford are a team similar to Forest that seem to find a lot of joy at... I can't remember, it's just the Brentford Community Stadium, isn't it? But hopefully Portman Road can become our fortress this year. We, of course, lost against Fulham at Portman Road at the start of the season. But I've had 2 away days at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and at the Etihad. We played at home against Brighton recently and have made a decent fist of it there. So hopefully this can be a progression. We had a decent game against Fulham at Portman Road, played better against Brighton at Portman Road, and hopefully Brentford can be the third game which we go and get 3 points in. Let's see how it goes though. Brentford have started very well, so it does concern me to some degree that we're going to stay in this game against Brentford. But the key is going to be avoiding conceding an early goal. We've only had 20% of the ball in the first 10 minutes here, so I think as long as we don't go and concede early, that is the main thing. We've had 2 shots in quick succession, both of them being on target, so we're not making many chances, but we are being clinical and making the goalkeeper work with those, and that is crucial for us. Coming back into the game more that we've gone back to a counter-attacking system, I think that it is likely that even though we start on balance, we are going to have to go for counter-attacking for the majority of games this season, but it is good to gauge to see if we will be in the game. And no doubt it will improve our confidence as well being in the game. But that is going to be classed as offside. Lewis Potter, really good strike. The keeper's going to struggle to stop that. But the goalkeeper, the linesman has put his flag up and VAR has disallowed the goal for offside. Is this going to be tight? Let's see. No, it's way off. Absolutely way off. The Brentford striker obviously deemed to have been affecting the goalkeeper's eye line there, because I don't think he got any sort of touch on that. But we have got another corner here from Brentford. Lewis Potter, he's done it again, but Muric, I thought he got a hand on that, but no, he just clipped the bar before going over. And again, a similar performance to the Forest game here, that Brentford have had a fair amount of chances, less than 50% of those on target. They've not really done anything in front of goal. You can see their XG is fairly low. They've had a lot of the ball, but we haven't really done anything either. So I'm going to say to the guys they've been unlucky so far. I don't know what we can do from corners. Again, Charlie Turnbull is our head performance analyst and set-piece coach for us. So I'm not taking that responsibility. I'm just going to manage the players and leave set-pieces, etc. to the experts. But to be blunt, doesn't look like there's much of an expert at the club at the moment based on how we've been defending corners. But I think that's this is the first game that we've got to half-time without conceding. And, well, I should have been quiet because I was just going on about potentially keeping a clean sheet against Brentford. And blow me, Keane Lewis Potter goes and scores. He's been a man that's been all around today. He could have had a hat-trick if things had gone well for him. But not tracked in the box by Ben Johnson, which is a player I've been glowing about. But that was a little bit disappointing from the right-back for us there. Again, we're going to try and get back more into the game here now we have conceded. We have scored in our last couple of matches, so that again is positive for us. But we're not really getting much of a sniff here against Brentford. You'd have thought that the home crowd would have given us a bit of motivation, and I'm sure they are, but not enough to give us anything of note here at Portman Road. Connor Chaplin's had a poor game, again not in his main position, so that's not a massive shock. But we are going to put him up front and see how he gets on. We're going to give him about 10 minutes and bring Liam Delap on if all else fails. But Broadhead's going to come on for George Hurst in that left wing position. Apart from that, Marcus Harness also looks a bit tired, so Wes Burns is going to come on for him. Apart from that, though, we're going to keep it as it is at the moment. 20 minutes to go here at Portman Road. We might give it to the last sort of 13, 14 minutes and then make any further changes. See if we can get anything out of this game. The disappointment is that we haven't had any attacking opportunities. I thought we might well have had one there with Luongo getting the ball. And Thiago, I'm sure that's not the Liverpool Thiago because he's retired, has put Brentford 2-0 up. And as the commentary says there, I think that has put the game beyond doubt. Luongo, that's, I'd say appalling. I'm going to say appalling because that is very disappointing there. One-on-one with the keeper, and Thiago makes it 2-0 to Brentford. Again, we're going to have one last fist it. We're going to bring Delap on. We're going to bring Humphreys on for Calvin Phillips. In fact, we'll just change things around a bit there so that Humphreys plays in a more attacking role. And Ben Johnson's not had the best day at the office either. So we're going to put Clark out on the right and bring Greavesy in as a centre-half. We're going to play a positive formation and just try and get ourselves back in this. Again, I can't see it happening, unfortunately. But if we can reduce the arrears to 2-1, then I guess I'll be somewhat happy with that. It's going to be difficult. It really is for us in this Premier League season, but we have got a chance that's nodded away from Brentford, and hopefully it's not an attacking chance for Brentford. Hopefully Sam Morsey, who's not had the best start himself, he's coming under some criticism in the media for his start that he's had so far this year. So disappointing from our captain. Again, we can't really afford to drop him though. Leif Davies to Luongo. Luongo surely make the most of this. Shoots. Oh, it's just gone past the goalkeeper. If we could have made it 2-1 there, then we could have maybe been hungry to get a second and get us back into this match. But it doesn't look like we are going to do that. And it's going to be the first time since the Spurs game that we've not registered a goal. So that's disappointing. But Brentford at the start of the season and Brentford now may be a bit of a different offering to what we expected them to be. But nevertheless, not to get a goal in front of our home crowd is a little bit disappointing. I'm going to say to the lads I'm not happy with the performance out there. And that is exactly how I feel. And Brentford have gone joint top of the table. It's a funny top four at the moment with Man City, Brentford, Fulham and Liverpool taking part of that top four. Everton have lost in the Merseyside derby, so we are still in touch in the bottom three. Again, Wolves, Southampton haven't had the best start, so we are still in touch, but we do need to get 3 points pretty quickly. And we have got Brighton in the third round of the EFL Cup. I'm not going to show that, but I am going to come back for the next Premier League match against West Ham away from home. But particularly the opportunity is against Southampton for us to get our first win. Now we've got 4 more games to get that 10 points on the board, and I think that's not going to happen now because that would mean we need to get 3 wins out of 4. And although Man United are quite weak, I can't see us winning away at Old Trafford. Maybe a Chelsea win might come to us, but I think 5 points is probably the most we can expect after 10 matches. And looking at our run into November, Arsenal, Liverpool, you have to say that Everton match might be massive for us. It's difficult. We're only 6 games in. It's only early days. Is it time to panic? I'm not sure. But we'll be back very soon for the third part. And if we can't get a result in that, then it might be time for us to panic. Because if we've only got 2 or 3 points after 12 games, we could already be heading back to the Championship. It's difficult. A decent performance against Forest. Maybe not the one we'd be looking for against an albeit in-form Brentford, but hopefully a match against Southampton, and they haven't won a game so far this season yet as well. Southampton have got to play Bournemouth next, so it's going to be Bournemouth or Southampton who pick up their first win of the season. But hopefully another game at Pullman Road against Southampton is where we can get our first 3 points of the season. If you've enjoyed that, leave a like down below, comment your thoughts down below as well, and subscribe for more Ipswich Football Manager 2024 content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.